Hey guys, we're gonna do some fun stuff today. I searched online for a couple items for this project. I had to look for each item separately. I got the wiring harness for. I'm gonna be installing this in a 2001 Dodge Ram. Uh, so what I got this wiring harness that powers your sun visors. These connectors for your sun visors. These were a pain. These were a pain in the butt to find on eBay. I had to buy another harness in order to get enough connectors to satisfy both sides. I got that. I got the overhead console with the mini trick computer, where you have your step and your US to metric, and the wiring that's inside here as well, and an auto dimming rearview mirror, and also the sun visors. The visors that have the mirror and your flip up, the Vanity mirrors. So, a little background: if you have a Laramie SLT, it will have the pre-existing wires for it, and like if you have an ST model or a base model, you won't have the pre-existing wires that will plug into this. And just as a side note, I've actually already did this project, but I'm doing it a second time because the first harness, something happened with the first harness that the bus wires will not work for the computer. So now I'm planning on doing this a different route. Like instead of pulling the dash out, I'm actually just going to cut the connectors off and just splice them into the current harness where I don't think the problem is occurring. So let's get on to it. Before I show you what each individual wire is for, I do want to point out that I did indeed already do this project, but the bus wires and also a wire that controls the dimming is not in working order right now. So that's why I'm doing it a second time. But I want to show you what I mean by the pre-existing wires. So just to give you an idea, right behind this fuse block, there's a brown connector that plugs back in here for your power. It gives you your power and your dimming for the computer, the trick computer. There's a second, and I guess when I put the dash back into place, it probably pinched a wire or so, and it just happened to pinch the CCD wires, or Chrysler Collision Detection. Basically the CAN bus wires. I don't know if you could pick that up, but there's like a white piece of paper over the harness. That's it right there. I'm gonna try to get under the hood. Not under the hood, under the dash. See what I'm talking about? Let's see here. This guy right here. If you have an SLT package, it's gonna have this. This is what this will plug into. Actually, you know what? I'll just do it right here. So this black wire is actually a factory security system wire that whenever you turn the key on, it'll have a red light that lights up. Some computers have it. That's what this is. Like if my truck had it, every time I turn the key on, it would light up. So instead of a theft light on the gauge cluster, it would just be on here instead. So that's what one of the wires is. I'll show you the other connector wires on the new one. Oh, come on, don't be difficult. So these two wires right here, the violet with the brown stripe and the white with the black stripe, are your two bus wires. The wires that are going to be feeding data, or that are supposed to feed data to your overhead console. to display miles per gallon, distance to empty, compass and outside temperature, and somehow also the temperature sensor wires, even though the temperature sensor wiring under the hood does not use these same colored wires. But we'll get to that later. So I'll show you the other connectors in just a moment. And when I tear this stuff apart, I'll show you the process of how this is wired. I'm pretty certain that it probably makes sense. So it's going to run from the bottom here. What my intention is, instead of pulling this dash out and routing it the factory way, it runs down your A-pillar, and it'll start going this way and then down here, and then eventually it'll go back down under here. What I intend to do is use the bottom part of the current harness, and just cutting that off from the current harness and splicing the wires onto the it's the newer harness, the one that hasn't been put in or messed up. And what I plan to do is just run it somewhere up here, and then eventually back up here, and then across the headliner. In my case, the current harness just runs here instead of all the way across. My new one is going to run all the way across because it needs to be able to power my sun visors, the ones that will have the Vanity mirrors. And this harness also powers the roof lights, but I didn't want to drill holes in my pickup because this is practically a rust-free truck. But the harness I bought also had light sockets for the roof lights if I had them. And just as a side note, these lights are actually Cab Over America roof lights that are wireless. All they have is like an adhesive sticker, and it sticks onto the roof. And so far, I'm very happy with those. So I'm glad I didn't drill holes in there. But when I tear this apart, I'll just try to do the best I can to film the process of doing so. But especially with the way I'm going to do it, it'll definitely be a lot easier and less time consuming than last time where I had to take the dash out. And I'll actually try to do it at home instead of like at a shop where I could work on it myself for free. But that's pretty much what's going on with this truck. It's been driving great. That's just been one of my pet peeves, is that computer not working, especially since I put so much time and so much work into trying to get it to work, and then it quits working a day later. It's just irritating. But it's been too hot down here in Florida that I simply haven't got around to fixing it until about now. So I'll let you know when I start working on it.